Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship. We are here at the 10th and final round here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in Florida. This is turning out to be an absolutely amazing event. We've got one very, very close championship and we're all looking forward to that one. My name is Aaron Smith. I am your host tonight, and alongside me we have a newcomer, Bradley Martins, and in the production hauler we have Joshua Wilkie, as always. And well, welcome not only to this series, but to Apex, Bradley Martins. Good to have you along beside me, and of course Ron celebrating Thanksgiving, something that I find absolutely ghastly myself as a Brit, but nevertheless we're here at Laguna Seca, and like I said, some championships looking a lot closer than others. The elite class looking extremely close, only 32 points separating our two championship contenders, Lucchesi and Dana Braga, with the former 32 points behind and having a lot of work to do tonight. But, well, Bradley, how are you feeling for tonight's event as a whole?
Oh, first of all, thank you very much for bringing me in for this today. And as you mentioned, from the title fight tonight, we have an excellent display of just driving talent and driving competition. Laguna Seca is a great place for racing, especially in these GT3 cars, and I cannot wait to see how it all begins and it all kicks off.
Yeah, same here. Laguna Seca is definitely one of the tracks I do have fairly fond memories of. It's a bit of a tricky one for me. It's close to being one of my favourites, but it's just not quite there, as that's Gattuso going for an interesting line through turn 10. That's definitely not what he wants to be doing come the race. But yeah, speaking of the race, the couple drivers really struggling in this practice session. But we do have two races for you tonight, each 30 minutes. And, well, only half points, of course, for those races instead of the normal double points that we have in the 1 hour races. So pretty much for our other two championships, it's pretty much said and done. Our premier standings, Brecht Bearings is 91 points ahead of Matt Hoyland. So that championship, unless something catastrophic happens to the Belgium, it's pretty much all said and done for him, and he will probably be your premier champion for season 6 here at Laguna Seca. And it's pretty much the same story in the Evo class as well. Ashley Brooks, after a fantastic last few rounds, second, first, and then first again. Can he continue that good streak tonight? We will find out. But he is 93 points ahead of Francois Brandet. So, yeah, for him, again, it's going to be very, very tricky for Francois to do anything. But it's all eyes on that elite standings. 34 points between our top two. And, well, it's been a fantastic season for those two over these 10 rounds. And it's going to be tricky for Lucchesi tonight, but it's not impossible, and judging by the last few weeks of speaking to him, he still has his spirits high.
Yes, this sounds all excellent. After all, as I've read, it looks like there's no more drop rounds. Everything matters in this race. Every single result, every single position, every single corner, every single lap. And with 10 minutes to go in practice, looks like Lucchesi is throwing down the gauntlet with the purple timings up on the timing sheets right now.
He does look very, very quick, and well, I expect the Porsche to be fairly good around here. It's been the dominant car all season, although that's an interesting way to take turn 10. A lot of drivers seem to be struggling at that corner at the moment, and well, he just about kept it facing the right way. Decent car control there, especially in that Porsche. It's an absolute beast to control. And, well, he's done well enough to control it all season to put himself into the championship fight. And, well, with the short, narrow nature of this track, a lot of traction zones as well. The corkscrew turns 2 and 3 and 4 being very, very crucial as well. And, of course, the final corner as well. The Porsche should be very, very strong here. And, well, Bradley, I don't know how much experience you have in GT3 cars. Myself, I have an okay amount. Not amazing. I've not really bonded with GT3s, I've got to be honest, but talk us through what you're expecting from these cars here at Laguna Seca.
Well, they say GT3 cars are forgiving, but the thing about that it means is you want to set it up for a lot more sort of instability, little bit more oversteer, a little bit more being able to throw it into a corner and fight it all the way through. It's just it can get pretty complex because there's plenty of electronic aids, so you don't want to sort of lean too little or lean too much. You lean too little, you'll spin out. You lean too much on the traction control, and you're just not gonna get the run you need out of the corner. And another thing about the challenge of Laguna Seca is being built on a dried lake bed has seemed to help sort of give it a certain character, a certain flair, a certain flow as it goes up and down across this little bit of Monterey countryside. One of the things you want to worry about is the camber in the corner, especially the legendary corkscrew. But yeah, when these drivers are fighting it, they are looking for every last second, every last millisecond, every last microsecond if they could.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the sounds of it, you do have a decent experience in GT3 cars. I've just never really gotten on well with them. I think it's just the electronic aids. I never really tend to get on with cars that do have the likes of traction control, ABS, and all sorts of this rubbish. I just prefer it to be me in the car, no ABS, no traction control, and I just gun it. That's why I get on decently well with most open wheelers and some of the higher up cars like the GTPs. They are fairly fun to drive. And GT3s, GT4s, TCRs have just never really been my thing. But that's none of the drivers' concerns, of course. They are a lot better than me in this car, although I'd love to challenge them to an F3 race or a GTP race at some point and see how well they do there. But at least here at Laguna Seca, they all look pretty sprightly. And by it being such a short track, we shouldn't see too much differing times. It should be a very, very close event here today.
Yes, in fact, if my math is correct, I suppose you say it as maths in this part of the world, but it's barely half a tenth for the top three, and the top three are the ones that are fighting it for the championship. No, I got it wrong. It's just
Lucchesi and Dennebrega.
Yeah, but half a second separating them. Dennebrega has the advantage on points, so he'll probably want to keep it a little bit safer, but judging by the times, he's not leaving all that much on the table.
Yeah, Lucchesi really is on it at the moment. He's got a big gap between himself and second, let alone between himself and the rest of the grid. So, I mean, he looks quick, but as we've seen a couple times this practice session, he has made a couple mistakes. And, well, he needs to keep it on the road if he wants any chance of fighting his teammate for the championship. And of course, these guys have been battling it out this entire season, and it's been absolutely fantastic to watch it. Oh, dearie me, Ruben, that's way too much curb at turn 10. Another victim of that corner. It's either people go too wide, too deep into there, or bounce their way along that curb. And, well, that is one thing you have to worry about here at Laguna, is even though these GT3 cars are actually okay on curbs, a lot of other cars in iRacing, you just want to stay away from most of the curves, to be honest. But these cars can be a lot more aggressive with them. But here at Laguna Seca, and no matter what car you're in, you do not want to be touching those massive, chonky orange sausage curbs because, well, you'll probably end up breaking your spine on the way down.
Yeah, those infamous sausage curbs probably bring to mind the big accidents, because you want to stick as close to that curb as possible without hitting it. And it, to some extent, as you get on the curbs, it does help bring the car around, especially as you see at the corkscrew, it's cambered in. It helps sling the car through the corner like it's a proper banking. Here as well, as you're going out through the final section, these corners are beautifully cambered. They just lean the car in and you follow it all the way through. Needless to say, this lot are following their way through the corners a lot better than I could, I think.
Well, I mean, I don't know how well I'd get on at these cars around here, but yeah, that's the difficulty with racing as a whole, isn't it? Is you kind of have to push the limits of the track limits yourself, the car, without actually going over it. You have to get as close to the white lines as possible, as close to those curbs. And one tiny miscalculation, one little thing that goes wrong, and it can completely spoil your race. And, well, obviously the best drivers are the ones that are able to do that lap after lap after lap after lap. And, you know, the drivers that are just a few tenths off and nearly there are the guys that are just being a bit safer, just giving a little margin to those curbs so they can get to the end of the race. And it just depends on your mindset as a driver. Lucchesi, going into this race, probably is absolutely maximizing everything out there, late as possible on the brakes, getting as close to those curbs and white lines as humanly possible. Whereas Dana Braga, like you said, he's got that points advantage, so he doesn't need to push. He just realistically needs to finish this race, and he will be crowned the Season 6 ESR GT3 Elite Champion, which he'll very, very much take over his two-time teammate, who's currently giving him a bit of a rough time.
Yeah, that gap of just under half a second, it's still a lot to catch up with. But on the other hand, Lucchesi really needs this pole position, so it looks like he's optimizing the setup for that. Dana Braga definitely can afford to keep it a little bit more conservative, keep himself sure that he can keep it on the road all the way through the race.
Yeah, but the problem with Lucchesi is, well, he kind of has to go for it, doesn't he? He just needs to push because he can't really afford to be safe. 34 points is a fair decent amount, and you know, maybe if we were at one of the 1 hour races, maybe he could be a little bit more reserved. But with these 30-minute races, no pit stops that they have to worry about. They can just gun it to the line. And maybe he won't have to worry about tyres. We know that the Porsche is a bit worse on its Michelins than a lot of other cars around it. And, well, is that going to pave into the later stages of the race? We will find out. But we've only got a couple minutes left here in the practice session. Not long to go now before we can start seeing some true pace of some drivers. And this is the difficult thing with being a commentator or a spectator sometimes when you're watching a practice session, is who's pushing, who's doing what. Are people doing racing setups? Are they fine-tuning their own setups? Are they just getting a feel for the car and the track? Or are they going absolute balls to the walls and pushing all out like, well, we think Lucchesi's doing?
Yeah, Aaron, I think you're right. That's the challenge of it. So Because as you've mentioned, practice is just numbers on the board, and the numbers do not mean anything yet. Lucchesi's going for just glory laps, but you still got to string that together during qualifying. Practice doesn't count for anything just yet. And Dino Brega, for all we know, could be running for race setups because the balance of the car definitely can shift as the tires wear down. Tires wear down, fuel goes down. It's interesting to see how the car's balance and drivability does vary through the length of these races, because 30 minutes sounds like both nothing and forever for GT3 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of someone like me who's kind of used to doing sprint races in Formula cars, yeah, 30 minutes is kind of a longer race as Gattuso. You could kind of tell going into the corkscrew that he wasn't fully under control of that Ferrari. As honestly, Gattuso's been a very, very weird driver this season. He has a race win, but at times, like seemingly today, he's just been really far off the pace. And it's utterly strange. I really do not know what's going on with that man. But hey, he has one more race win than me in this series. So, I guess he probably shouldn't be taking advice from me. So fair enough for the Italian. But practice looks like it's about to finish. And there we go. And finally, after a little bit of a wait, we can get into some real action. The qualifying session that we've all been waiting for. These guys get 4 laps, including their out lap, to full push it all the way for these 15 minutes. And well, hopefully we should get qualifying relatively done soon, probably before the 10-minute mark, as these lap times I think were in around the 120 mark to 122s. And who's it going to be? Can Lucchesi, like you were saying, Bradley, can he string together those laps? He managed to do it in practice. Can he do it in the all-important qualifying session?
Yes, that's always a challenge. And you have 3 laps, but you also have a set of tires that won't last all the way through it. So you have to decide, can you push all 3? Do you want to save the tires for just 1 lap? It's a challenge for even the best of us, and I think we've got the best of us right in front of us qualifying right now.
Yeah, definitely we do. They've been pretty spectacular this whole season. These guys have been pushing the limits of these GT3 cars, and it's been absolutely fantastic to watch. And hopefully in future seasons we get to see some even closer racing. As today I think will be a bit of a struggle at Laguna. It's very much a track position focused track, and I think whoever gets pole is going to have a huge advantage going into the race. And then of course that second race, the top 12 invert. So it's a huge gamble for a lot of these guys. Do you push it on this first few laps, or do you just set a time on the board and just secure yourself a decent qualifying position? And well, long way to go today. Of course, 2 races adding up to an hour each, and these 15 minutes. Long day for these guys, but only one more round, and who will be crowned champion in the elite class at the end of it. As Danny Lee begins his qualifying lap, we can ride on board with him for a lap around Laguna Seca, hugging his way all the way as close to the left-hand side, then pushing his way out to the right, braking at the 3 marker by the looks of it. Hit this first apex, drift out wide, but a snap of oversteer there for Danny Lee, cutting back inside as we head now to turn 3, using all the curb on the outside and getting as close to that sausage curb as you can, and then drifting out wide again. He's muscling this Mercedes on this first lap. Rear of the car looks absolutely all over the place. Once again through turn 4, getting as close to that orange curb as you can. Pretty much the thing you want to do around here, getting close to those curbs as you can. Same thing through turn 5. And it does not look like a comfortable lap for Danny Lee at all. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a prerequisite for what we're going to see from him today. And again through turn 6, probably the most difficult corner on the track, even more difficult than this next corner, the corkscrew. One of the absolute mainstays here at Laguna Seca, punching your throttle on the exit. And now through turn 9, washing out wide, then cutting back to the inside once again, using the curb on the outside, shooting yourself to the outside for turn 10, then back to the inside. And then for this last corner, absolutely stamping on the brakes, full lock to the left. You can actually use that sausage curb for once, then drifting out wide and running yourself all the way up to the line and hoping that you've done enough to set a good lap time. And I don't think from Danny Lee it's going to be good enough. 7/10 off what Ryan Otins has set so far. So definitely some work to do for the 271 Brit.
Yeah, there's definitely time left for people to improve their laps. We've seen a 120 on the board so far, so there's definitely someone capable of doing it right now.
Yes, absolutely. We're just going to have to wait for those cars and tyres to eventually warm up. And like you were talking about earlier, the fact that these GT3s can be a bit awkward to qualify sometimes, since those tyres don't really tend to last very long at their absolute maximum pace. But I think here at Laguna Seca, they might just about get away with it because it is just so short. As Brett Baring's going a tiny bit wide through turn 3 there. Heading his way now through turn 4. And, well, these first lap or two, yeah, basically ignore them. They don't really count, to be honest, as you just need to wait for these cars to get nice and warm, for these drivers to gain the confidence that they need to run around here cleanly. And, well, at the moment, it's Denabrega on top with a 121 dead, as Lucchesi hasn't actually set a time yet, although he's just about to, probably, as he comes round the final corner. And, well, is this just going to be a banker lap, or did he invalidate somewhere? We will eventually have a look as he crosses the line. And I believe it was just a warm-up lap, so still got to wait for another lap for Lucchesi to set probably what's going to be a very, very competitive time at the top of the field.
Yeah, these times are all tumbling as they get in through the session and settle into their rhythm. It is always a challenge to sort of manage these tires because the lap may be short, but there's enough corners to put some hot load into them. And as you go through the lap, and as we hear the wondrous engine noises from the Porsche, you sort of understand just how the challenge is, especially here breaking into the corkscrew. You almost have to turn and brake at the same time. You have to balance both the steering and the pedal as you go through it.
That looks unbelievably comfortable and clean for Lucchesi going through the corkscrew. And can he keep it together on these final few corners? Looks very, very good from him. Car looks stable. Round the final corner, cranking that steering lock all the way to the left. A little bit wide through the final corner, so not the run that he probably would have wanted. But it still looks extremely competitive. And where is it going to put him? It puts him second, 600ths off of his teammate. And well, they've both got about 2 laps left to go in this qualifying session. And at the moment, it's advantage Denabrega, and he's going to be over the moon to hear that. And, well, my point earlier about this track probably being Porsche dominant seems to be fairly well founded. We've got a lot of Porsches inside of the top 20 at the moment. And not very surprising, the Porsche has been the dominant car for most of this season. Only a couple times has it really struggled, but here at Laguna, it's definitely probably the car you want to be in.
Yeah, I can imagine, Aaron, that the popularity of the Porsches does have something to do with the cars performing. The balance of power as you get through all of the GT3 field is meant to be really, really close, but there's definitely cars that it's meant to be, is what I meant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, wording doesn't mean anything when it comes to lap time. And as we can see, some drivers are really able to extract the performance of the Porsches. Ooh, it looks like Lucchesi's managed to get his pole time.
Yep, he's managed to usurp his teammates with a 120.7, as Denebrega's last lap time was kind of tragic, to be honest, but it looked like a warm-up lap, so we will wait and see for Denebrega what he can do on this final lap, whether he was taking a lap to cool down those tyres. Actually would be a fairly smart thing to do. And, well, he's not lighting up the timing screens, got to be honest, as he seems to be taking it fairly easy on this lap as well. And, well, yeah, That's very, very wide there from Dana Brager through turn 10, and that could have invalidated his lap time. And it may well have done, but he's still giving it a damn go, coming up towards the line. And this should probably be his fourth and final lap, and it was. And unfortunately for Dana Brager, that's going to be it for his qualifying session. And, well, at the very minimum, he's going to be starting second place, which, I mean, to be fair, probably won't even care. It's still good enough to win the championship if he indeed does finish in second in both races behind Lucchesi. But his teammate definitely wringing the most out of that Porsche as everyone's starting to come towards the end of their qualifying session. And yeah, we basically have gotten this done before the 10-minute mark. All pretty much 43 of our drivers have set their lap times. Only a few left to go, Lucchesi being one of them, as I don't really think he needs to set another lap, as, well, no one's getting close to him at this point.
He don't need to set another lap, but he might want to send a message.
Well, the mind games it is one of the best things to watch during a championship, isn't it? No matter what you're watching, whether if it's, you know, Formula One, motorsports, football, whatever. It's just the mind games that your opponents play on each other to try and win the championship is so funny to watch as an outsider, because it can have an absolutely dramatic effect on their performance.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, to start with, it's the top two in the championship, top two in the qualifying. Front row are the only drivers in the 1 minute 20s, and if that doesn't say something about sort of just how they're just that little bit faster than the rest, I'm not sure what other message we could think of.
Yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head there, to be honest, as yeah, they've both been the absolute class of the field this season, and the only times other drivers have managed to win have been errors through Lucchesi or Dana Brager. There have been 1, 2 or 3 races where they have actually been outmatched on pace, but it doesn't happen often, and that's because those two are just absolutely mental in terms of speed. And they're not even the highest I-rated drivers in the lobby. So, you know, fair play. They've got a couple of other drivers that are, you know, at least a few hundred I-rating more than them, as we can pop that up on the screen for you there. It's Danny Lee, actually, who I believe is the highest I-rated in this lobby anyway. Then you've got some other drivers like Luke King as well, who's fairly high I-rated. And Dana Brager 4.2, Lucchesi 3.9. And they seem to be the class of the field throughout this entire season, and throughout the last few seasons, ever since they joined. They've just been absolutely rapid, and well, maybe one day we could see them on an official iRacing broadcast. Maybe they definitely have the knowledge and the speed to be able to do that.
That sounds fantastic. Aaron, would you say that part of the iRacing calculation also depends on what the drivers do outside the series? Do they have other championships that they participate in that they might just contribute to their versatility, for example?
Yeah, it can be a bit difficult to tell from someone's iRacing, because, I mean, some people have like 8 or 9 or 10k, but they only race one car, and then someone can have 3 or 4 or 5k, but they race a bunch of cars and are quick in pretty much all of them. So iRacing can be a little bit hazy sometimes, but I mean, the more iRating someone has, you're probably going to be like, oh, they're probably a bit quick. As that's not the ideal line there at all from Dennis Collar. He's the only one left on the entire track out of all 43 of our drivers. And Dennis struggling ever so slightly. That's a little bit wide there through turn 5. And, well, we could move on to the race session, but iRacing, of course, waits for everyone to finish their laps. So just giving a chance for the Dutchman to set a lap time. This is going to be his last lap time, as through the corkscrew we go on board with Dennis, and looked fairly decent through there. I'm not sure if he has an off-track already. I think he does. And, oh, well, there you go. That's definitely going to be an off-track for Dennis Collar. And this lap is not going to count either. But at least he can get some little practice in before we head into the race session. And when he comes across the line, we should jump into said race session and the final championship fight between our two contenders will begin. As didn't even mention Brandet, by the way, who's an AM driver who is a long way off the championship now. Pretty much not going to happen for him. Is currently in 7th overall and first, of course, in the AMs. Very good performance by him. And Alex Fretwell, off the back of his first win last week, is currently on pole in 8th in the Premier class. So fair play to both of them. A little bit ahead of the likes of Brecht Bearings and Ashley Brooks. And we've got about another minute left to go, so we can take a look at some replays of drivers struggling around here at Laguna Seca, as this is one of the McLarens going a tad bit wide through turn 6. And that really is one of the most difficult corners on this track, isn't it?
Yes. The fact that it's open setup means that the drivers also have to sort of understand just how to get their suspension working, especially on a track with the dips and dives and climbs of Laguna Seca. You get it wrong as they got there and you're in the wall. Yeah, it really is a complex thing because on one hand you want the suspension to comply, to hang on with the bumps, but on the other hand you need it as stiff as possible to make sure that you've got the most grip you can.
Yeah, setup knowledge for a driver, no matter what series you're racing in, whether it's, well, no matter what game you're racing in, whether it's, well, real life, iRacing, etc., of course, or wherever it is, setup knowledge is absolutely key. If you know what you're doing and you know how to set up the car correctly, well, you can do absolutely anything you want. I'm not that savvy with setups. I know some stuff, but, you know, I probably need to take a class in it if I'm being completely honest. But here we are then, lining up on the grid with 43 of our drivers. This should be fun to get through. So Luke Lucchesi starts on pole, and that's very much going to be the way he wanted this day to start. How's it going to end, though, for the RDSA esports driver who's fighting his teammate Tristan Denabrega, who lines up alongside in second? Luke Van Gortel lines up just behind in 3rd place. Ruben Behrens in 4th. Danny Lee lines up in 5th place. Ryan Oatent in 6th. Your AM pole driver ahead of your Premier pole man, Alex Fretwell. Francois Brandet in 7th. Really good performance by him. Damn shame he's not really in the championship fight anymore. Then it's Tom Weston in 9th. Dean Powell in 10th. Brecht Bearings in 11th. Thomas Pugh in 12th. Brayson Back in 13th. Luke King in 14th. Andrew Fairley in 15th. Matt Hoyland in 16th place. And then in 17th place is going to be Ashley Brooks, who just needs to finish pretty much, and he will wrap up his Evo Championship. Paul Collishaw in 18th. Victor Van Ziest in 19th place. John Ludbrook in 20th. Stefan Donnelly in 21st. Chris Jennings in 22nd. Roll Turfcrewer in 23rd place. Josh, I need you to calm down, my man. I can't read that quickly. It's Corey Price in 24th. And then in 25th, it will be Stefan Gattuso, Christopher Radolf in 26th, Scott Kostrick in 27th, Joe Sparrow in 28th, Robin Noel Brown in 29th, James Bostock in 30th place, Hussein Sarek de Slesser in 31st, Gareth Newton climbing up in 32nd place, Marcel Brayson back in 33rd, Joe Preston 34th, Chris Keenan 35th place, Danny Weir in 36th, Liam Kelso 37th, Joe Glass 38th, Martin Cock in 39th, Sean Clark in 40th place. And then 3 more drivers, James Pallow, Rob McKee and Dennis Collar in 34th. 34th, that's a word, isn't it?
I was holding my breath in sympathy right there. That's a lot of drivers. Not a lot of racetrack, if we're being honest. But yeah, they're behind the pace car now for their formation lap. It is not a very long run into the hairpin, is it? And I think it'll be really, really important to see how Lucchesi and Denabrega get out of T1.
Yeah, it really does depend on how Lucchesi launches away from the start. Can he outsmart his own teammate into turn 1. And with these rolling starts, we don't tend to see too much action unless something absolutely insane happens. They've all been relatively clean so far this season. And hopefully that can continue today at Laguna. But like you said, 43 cars on a not so big enough track for 43 cars. It might become an issue with some slower cars or some lap traffic. Once we get to the 20-25 minute mark, that genuinely is going to be something to think about. As a lot of things to think about on a formation lap, and it works on your mind, doesn't it? It gives you almost too much time to think.
Well, too much time and not enough, because you need your tire temperatures right, you need your brake temperatures right, you need to set yourself up right for the green light. You've just got to get that sort of mindset at that trigger, at the trigger. When the lights turn green, you want to go off the blocks as fast as possible. But the challenge is, when will those lights go out? When will the leader lead away? Well, we can't hold our breath forever, of course.
Well, neither can the drivers. They've got to be on it. They've got to have the reaction times of a cheater. As we wait for the green light, we wait for Lucchesi to make his way and stamp that Porsche throttle. There he goes. He stamped on it, and that was a very, very good start for Lucchesi. He should be able to lead into turn 1 fairly cleanly as we head into the Andretti hairpin for the first time in today's race. It looks to be a little bit of a cluster further back into the midfield, as some cars going side by side through this first section. Very, very tricky to keep it clean through here when going side by side, but they've all managed to keep it on the track so far, as we're on board with Breck Bearings as he goes through turn 3 now into turn 4. Seems like all of our cars have gotten through cleanly, which is exactly what you see coming out of the first sector.
Well behaved indeed. Lucchesi and Dinabriga got away cleanly. I think that's the best they could possibly do for their championship hopes. Everyone behind is fighting fairly cleanly, because they were 2x2 going through the first 4 or 5 corners, but they now seem to have lined up properly into single file. We've got a fight into the corkscrew right now.
I'm gonna say some people thinking a little bit better of it, trying to go for a move into the corkscrew, which I wouldn't recommend, but it's not impossible. It just takes a lot of concentration and a lot of balls, I'll be honest. As we ride on board with Brayson back, he's got Matt Hoyland up his chuff, as Matt couldn't quite find a way through on the South African there. And it's, like I said, been relatively clean. Only a few drivers have had some issues. Luke King being one of them, he's dropped down the field. As is Stefan Donnelly, he's falling all the way down. Joe Sparra as well, he's actually in the pits, I believe. So he's had to go back. Stefan Donnelly and Paul Collishaw now, another driver. Car's going to have to be careful coming around that final corner, as Sparra actually wasn't in the pits. But Paul, what on earth happened coming out of this corner? He was running decently up the field, and car looks okay. Oh, he's just giving it a bootful.
Yeah. And when you're facing the wrong way like that and the rest of the pack comes streaming by, you have to
it's so painful.
Turn right into it. But at the same time, you're seeing everyone go by.
Yeah.
It's never a great thing, especially on the first lap of a race.
No, it is not at all. And that pain, I think most of us drivers have felt it at some point. You are facing the wrong way, you know, you're higher up the field, and you just got to wait for everyone to come past us. Corey Price looks like he wanted to go for a move on Ashley Brooks, but couldn't quite get close enough to the current leader in the Evo Championship. And again, Ashley, all he needs to do is finish. He literally needs, I think, 7 points, and he will be the Evo champion this year, as Corey really wanting to get past the AM driver. Honestly, I keep calling them AM drivers. Evo driver, come on. As the Dutchman getting oh so close to the back of Ashley Brooks. He should be able to make the move relatively soon, but we know how racy Ashley can get round the outside for Corey Price. He's desperately trying this one, but round the outside at turn 2, that's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going into replay right now. This was back at the start, I believe. James Pallett just 3 wide into turn 1. Just wasn't going to go. It looks like he's recovering right now, of course. But it's a long race yet, especially when you've been dropped to the back of the field like that. Long race to go still for Lucchesi and Dino Brega at the front as well. They are not running away from each other or the rest of the field.
Well, Lucchesi definitely is setting the paces in the early stages of this race. Half a second quicker than Dino Brega on that last lap. That is an age round here at Laguna Seca. And Lucchesi definitely seeming like the driver to catch up. And, well, we might not see anyone catch up to him. We have seen Lucchesi in this position before, though, and he has made a mistake before. So can he just keep his cool this time, and can he just finish this race in first place and give himself the best chance possible to at least give Dino Brega that tiny bit of a fight going into race 2? Because as it stands, I believe Dino Brega still will have about a 30-odd point lead in the championship, so it's not going to be enough unless something like maybe Van Gortel giving the attack on the McLaren driver. That's going to be Dino Brega's biggest worry, is the drivers around him, probably.
Yeah, because when you're in a two-man title fight for the championship, you still have to get through the rest of the field. Dino Brega and Lucchesi gave themselves the best advantage they could by starting right at the front. But with 43 cars and a 30-minute race, you might get into some back markers pretty soon.
Yeah, honestly, that's already a worry. I thought we might get into back markers maybe around the 20-minute mark, but some drivers having incidents at the start. We're going to come up to them a lot earlier than you would think, and that's a Ferrari completely missing his rear end, and I wonder who on earth that is. That looks like Christopher Rodolphe, and, well, that's not what you want to see at all. And I wonder how on earth he's done that, and it's through the corkscrew. Well, this is probably going to be inevitable. Everything looks okay, very deep from, I think that's Ludbrook, taps him round, and that's, I think, Turf Crewer. That's about 3 or 4 cars that got involved in that. And unfortunately for Christopher, well, he's missing quite a lot of downforce after that, and had to unfortunately come into the pits.
Yeah, that's not what you want to see so early in the race, and just the level of repairs you need to do. It's almost seems a waste at the start, but there's still another race to go. So hopefully you can recover through the rest of the 50 minutes of racing we still have.
I'm starting to get the feeling that this could potentially be a race of attrition. Not really in terms of, you know, side by side, people taking each other out, but just the difficulty at Laguna Seca will probably kill off some drivers, some lesser experienced drivers, and we already have about 5 or 6 cars who have had to come into the pits, and we do have 2 cars that are still sitting in the pit lane who, well, seemingly have given up all hope coming back into this race, as Joe proved me wrong, as he is coming back out onto the track, albeit a lap down, so probably not ideal for him, but I think Dennis Collar has completely given up.
That looks like a lot of damage to fix, so yeah, he's definitely out of contention. So this is breaking into T1.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's a big error.
Not sure. I think it was Joe Sparrow, who I don't even know what has happened there. James did move under braking, which put Joe off, but gonna hopefully get an onboard with Joe and see on earth what happened. I'm just dumbfounded, to be honest. That did look awfully late, and oh dearie me, that definitely was a little bit silly. Yeah, there was absolutely nothing that Dennis could do there. And, well, Joe probably kicking himself. Definitely could have been a lot worse of an accident, but just braking far, far too late into turn 2.
Yeah. Danny Lee now in 6th. He's been having a quiet one so far, which, at the rate it's going so far, quiet is good. Quiet is good because you're still in there to pick up the points as it goes along. Top 5 are driving fairly cleanly. Looks like Ryan Ottens is up 2 places from the start, which is a pretty good start by Laguna Seca standards. And Fretwell and Brandy are both very comfortably in the top 8 on the road, which means they're leading their classes and they're in very competitive position for the race. And this is the man who is absolutely trying to set the timing screens alight, put as much daylight between himself and Dino Brega. Luke Lucchesi is driving like his season depends on it, which it indeed does. Tristan
Yeah,
Dino
100%.
getting around the final corner right now. You can see just a little bit of daylight. You can tell who's got the better of this circuit and car combination. But Dino Brega is driving a fairly decent Champions drive at the moment. He is limiting the damage, keeping close to Lucchesi, and keeping the rest of the field behind him, which in championship terms and in racing terms is a good show.
Yeah, Lucchesi, literally all he needs to do is just keep doing what he is doing at the moment, and hopefully the drivers behind Dennebrega can start putting some pressure on him, as this is what happened to Ludbrook, as I believe this is a replay of what we saw earlier on, and it was Ludbrook going for a bit of an optimistic move and then making contact with Christopher. And yeah, John definitely the one responsible for that accident, unfortunately, and probably a penalty coming his way, as Francois Brandet getting very close to Thomas Pugh there, as this kind of backed him up into the 2 Bearings cars, Western and Bearings, my apologies, as we go nearly 3 wide into the corkscrew, and inevitably there's a big accident, and that's a huge one. That involved about 4 or 5 cars there. And, well, that's what happens when you try to go for a move out the corkscrew. And it's damaged Brandet's car, it's damaged Bearing's car, and I think it's damaged a few others as well. And, well, that was just inevitable. Nearly 3 wide into the corkscrew. They all kind of panicked and was trying to give each other room. And inevitable contact, Brandet hitting Bearings, I believe. And we can take a look at a replay as we head into the braking zone. I believe that's Bearings going for the move. And, well, he does have to give him room on the inside. And unfortunately, that's caused big damage for about 4 or 5 cars there. So that could have huge implications for the rest of this race.
Yes. The field seems quite shuffled up now. And this is more than your average deck of cards, I'd say, because that little incident with Brandet has just rippled down the field. 3 wide in a corkscrew seems to have resulted in 3 cars in the pits. We're seeing one more replay from onboard Andrew Fairley. Yeah, that is quite... I can't say if there was anything anyone could have done. It's just everyone wants to make up as much time as possible. But sometimes it's penny wise and pound foolish. You cannot try and save half a second if it's going to risk costing you a whole pit stop.
Yeah, sometimes it just isn't worth it, and especially trying to go for moves at corners like the corkscrew. Well, what did you expect? To be fair, but yeah, that's I'm not saying it's impossible, but I definitely think that a little bit more room could have been given to both drivers in that situation. But it's racing; these things happen, and well, it's definitely turning into a bit of a race of attrition now. Some drivers carrying damage out there, some drivers already coming into the pits, as we see Alex Fretwell letting Thomas Pugh go. As well, he doesn't need to fight him at all, and definitely the smart thing to do for Alex Fretwell, as well, he really is, you know, banking off that first win last week, and is driving superbly in this race. And maybe had things gone a little bit differently at the start of the season for him, he could actually have been one of the championship contenders But unfortunately for him, Rex Bearings and Matt Hoyland have just been absolutely outstanding. But this time round, it's Alex who leads the top of the Premier class, as Hoyland and Brecht have really, really struggled around here at Laguna Seca, as we're nearly coming up to the halfway point in this race. It's absolutely flown by. And, well, there is Matt Hoyland, speak of the devil, trying to get past Brayton back, who is currently in front of him, and then he might be able to begin his chase up towards Alex Fretwell towards the end of these 30 minutes.
A 5.5 second gap between Hoyland and Fretwell seems quite a lot, but also not impossible. I think probably the challenge is, can Hoyland work with Breitenbach, or will he have to sort of muscle his way past just to find the time? And not to mention, the cars around Hoyland are fairly close together, so you want to be careful and not create another multi-car incident like we saw earlier at the Corkscrew.
No, you really, really don't. And, well, I'm not exactly surprised. It's something that can very, very easily happen here at Laguna Seca. One car tries to go for a move, and then everyone behind has absolutely nowhere to go. And, well, considering this is a bit of an older scan of Laguna Seca as well, you've not got some of the runoff that's in the modern version of the track. It's just pure gravel around here. You go off the track and, well, you're going to be suffering mostly, as Andrew Fairley going up the inside of Brooks, as they're still going wheel to wheel, as Brooks is definitely a feisty one for sure. And we know how hard he loves to defend the positions, even if technically he's not fighting for them. Both of them braking as late as they can into turn 2. But Fairley easily getting past there and putting himself up into 12th. And making steady progress into the top 10 of the elite category now.
Yeah, points are points, and every little position, every little second of time is valuable. If I read the timings right, Fairley is just under 2 seconds behind Breitenbach, which could be useful as the laps tick down.
Yeah, the drivers are just going to be watching those laps coming down and down and down, and watching the time coming down and down, as some of the gaps have really opened up over some of these cars. You've got Lee and Powell, who are nearly 10 seconds apart. You've got Lucchesi and Dennebrega 3 seconds apart as well, as that is a lapped car just getting out the way there. As Luc Van Gortel initially was putting pressure on Dennebrega, but has just fallen back over these last few laps, and I wonder if he's taken a bit too much out of those tyres in those opening sort of 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, he's got to make those tires last another 13 minutes, which it's hard to tell how long how much tire life they have left. The track temperatures are climbing slightly as well, so that's going to impact it a little bit more. It's really hard to say, because the tires sort of drop off with temperature and also with running. Van Gortel. Yep, Van Gortel has a second and a half to find behind Dennebrega. Well, Dennebrega himself is now 3.5 seconds behind Lucchesi. Lucchesi is really putting time up on him. And it's not to say that Dennebrega is being quite outraced by Lucchesi. She's putting in very consistent, very fast laps. But Lucchesi just has that little bit extra today, almost as if he's really driving for a championship right here. And the gap is large but not insurmountable for Lucchesi.
Well, he's going to have to hope that something happens to Dennebrega, because, you know, he can win this race by a lap and it still won't make a difference, unfortunately, as that's just the way racing goes. But he definitely is putting in some very, very impressive lap times and is giving himself the best possible chance to win this championship because, you know, like he said and like you said, it's not over until it's over, and he's giving himself the best possible chance. And it's going to be very interesting to see him come through the field. If he does indeed finish this race in first, he will be starting in 12th. Of course, the top 12 inverts going into that second race. So as it stands, it would be Andrew Fairley who would be starting race 2 on pole. And then Matt Hoyland second, Brayton back in third, and so on and so forth. And Dennebrager would be starting ahead of Lucchesi. And is he going to try and fight to keep that track position? Or is he just going to let his teammate just shoot on by? I can't imagine he will. No, I don't think he wants to take any risks, as Dennebrager in those second races trying to come through the field is always when he's been a bit weak. The few times he has dropped points is in that second race. Couple incidents here as well. This is Tom Weston, who we're currently looking at trying to get a move done, and that's a huge slam into that inside curb, and that is exactly what I was talking about earlier. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, Aaron, you mentioned it time and again, and unfortunately some drivers just have had the misfortune of having to demonstrate it again because they're searching for that little bit more time. Got to want to, and fair play to everyone who tries to get that little bit more time. It's just sometimes the track bites back.
Yeah, you've pretty much hit that perfectly, to be fair, you know. And, well, that's just racing, isn't it? You know, no matter what racetrack you're at, no matter if it's something as easy as, you know, turning left at Daytona. Well, that was a bit of a slam up the back for Brett Bearings. He just ran straight into the back of Brayton back. And then a Keenan, who I believe is currently behind him. No, that's that's Francois Brandet who's currently behind him. My apologies. Who's a lap down. They all kind of just bonked into the back of each other and caused a bit of damage. And kind of looks like Brett Bearings' front bumper just looks quite funny there. Just looks like he's pouting now. And well, probably after the way this race has gone for him, I wouldn't be surprised if he is in that driver's seat.
Yeah, I can't imagine his front tires will be very happy with the situation either. You lose a little bit of front downforce, you lose front grip. Those front tires are probably going to have to work more and slide more, and you'll lose them a bit sooner, and he's going to have understeer for the rest of the race. We're on board with Scott Kostrick right
here.
No.
Ooh,
we've got a spin. It looks like just the Concertina effect.
No.
Yeah, Concertina effect has just caused Kostrick to spin, and now he's got to recover. It looks like he might have been damaged worse than we thought. Radloff as well, side by side. We're going back to replay for Kostrick. He's got Kostrick right there. Just under braking, he got close. Yeah, misjudged himself. Ooh, and just the second one as he tried to get out of the way. It's just you're in an awkward spot, so it definitely takes some experience to learn when to not go. Yeah, and it looks like he's broken his suspension as well because he's pulled off the track. Ooh, Radloff's gotten by Ludbrook, I think, who just run wide and run off.
Yeah, not sure who that was. That was a Lamborghini, I think Ludbrook. He's a little bit further back as Sean Clark getting hounded by Radloff right now as he makes his way by. And well, that's the awkward situation that we've got at the moment. Is you've got a lot of drivers who've had those incidents earlier on in this race, coming through the field and trying to overtake drivers who just don't have the confidence here at Laguna Seca. And it very much shows, and it's so difficult to follow another car that doesn't have any confidence, because they can just be a bit unpredictable, and you just have to be extremely cautious in trying to pass them. So we're currently with Sarek de Slesser, who's got Corey Price all over the back of him. Corey's had an okay race so far, fighting with a lot of cars today. He's currently up 4 places, but the likes of some drivers around him Rob McKee up 20 places. Gareth Dewson up 15. James Bostock up 12. Sarek Deslesser, who we were talking about a few moments ago, up 12 as well. And that just goes to show the level of attrition we've had today and the amount of incidents we've already had in only 24 minutes of racing.
Yeah, it's really important to keep your nose clean.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it definitely is quite a challenge up and down the field. It looks like the top 6 are still within 10 seconds of each other, which says a lot about how close it is at the front. But yeah, the rest of the field's gotten plenty spread out thanks to just the incidents. And it really seems like incidents breeds incidents, because once you've sort of had that off track, or you've had a bit of a bump or knock against someone else, you've gotten the damage, you've lost some pace, you fall into the clutches of someone else, and you simply sort of just get ping-ponged around in the middle of the field. It's quite the challenge to sort of keep it going as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we'd just like to quickly apologise. We're just having some brief technical difficulties with iRacing. Thank you, iRacing, for just being absolutely flawless. But, welcome to Radio ARTV, I guess. We can still inform you on what's going on out on track. Nonetheless, as not too much has changed since we've currently lost the broadcast. Still, as you were, Lucchesi's still up at the top, leading from his teammates. And, currently in 12th, it's still Andrew Fairley, who will be watching for that 12th spot, seeing who manages to get it and who will get that pole position going into the second race of tonight and the final race of the entire season. That's going to be one to remember as well. And yeah, still not too much going on out on track. Currently with Rob McKee, who's in 22nd place, as he's had a very, very good race. He's probably one of my favorite liveries of the season. He's just got a Jeremy Clarkson themed car, which, who doesn't love good Jeremy Clarkson? And people who don't like Jeremy, you're weird and should probably go away. He's also being sponsored by Hawkstone. I need to try Hawkstone. I don't condone the alcoholic drinking at all whatsoever, but I should try Hawkstone. No. Well, I hope he hasn't got a Hawkstone.
It's still not a good idea either.
I definitely hope Rob doesn't have a Hawkstone in hand whilst driving, but if he does, then I mean, fair play. I don't think there are any laws against sim racing and drinking, so fair enough. He's doing damn well if he is in 22nd place.
Doesn't handle like farm equipment is what I hope.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Jeremy has ever owned a McLaren, but Rob McKee's got one leg up on Jeremy there.
Here
we go. I believe we're just getting everything set up again, and hopefully we can get some live pictures back to you guys relatively soon. We should be back, I'm being told, live, as here we are back at Laguna Seca. You can see there Luke King going for a move into turn 1 and just about getting the move done there. Not sure who that was on. That might have been Ludbrook, as Luke King had a bit of a tricky start to this race, but is making his way now back through the field.
Yeah, making your way back through the field. You've mentioned that all-important 12th spot to get pole position for race 2. I'm pretty sure nothing could be further from Lucchesi's mind out in the front, but I suppose with Dinabrega and Lucchesi further back in the field for race 2, it will be a tasty piece of action to get through to watch them try and get through the field and get as many points in their final opportunity. Of course, that's getting ahead of myself, because there is still 2 minutes left to go, which is, if I count correctly, about 2 laps.
Should be. It all depends on when Lucchesi actually does come across the line, as there is some expletives being said in the chat right now. Not sure what's happened with one of the drivers, but definitely
There's a
not happy at all. As I think Lucchesi's had a really tough time navigating some of these back markers, and it's allowed Dennebrega to catch back up by about 1.5 seconds. And we are on the white flag, by the way, so this is going to be the final lap of race 1. And
What a final lap,
Dennebrega,
all three classes within a second of each other. Within 2 seconds.
Very, very close. It's going to be a great finish, hopefully, between all three of these classes. Dennebrega definitely catching up on these last few laps. Hoyland is right behind Fretwell, and Brooks, unfortunately, has gone into the pits, and he's lost first place in the Evo class. I wonder if he's either hit the incident limit or has underfueled the car, and I believe this is going to be a drive-through. It is. So Ashley's been a naughty boy somewhere and has unfortunately been given a drive-through for going over that incident limit, and he's lost the lead because of that. Unfortunately, he's given it to Roll Turf Crewer, who I don't think has managed to pick up a race win so far this season. But nonetheless, a man who's picked up quite a lot of race wins this season. Luke Lucchesi, very, very dominant first race this has been for him, as he comes across the line and wins the second to last race of Season 6 in the ESR GT3 Championship. And that's going to be a big boost in terms of his morale going into the last race of the season. Can he do it? Can he hope and pray? I mean, I don't know how much he wants to pray on the demise of his own teammate, but either way, he's going to surely be hoping that some luck comes his way in race 2, as Alex Fretwell taking back-to-back race victories in the Premier class, as Hoyland just wasn't able to get quite close enough to mount a challenge. And Roll Turf Crew, I believe I am right in saying that that is his first race win of the season, and that's going to be a very, very impressive result for him. And actually, no, just taking a look, it's his second win of the season. My apologies, as Ashley Brooks does come across the line in second place, and I actually do believe that that has crowned him champion officially in the Evo class. I don't think there's enough points left to grab for Brandet to usurp Brooks, so I think I'm right in saying that Brooks is your Season 6 Evo champion, and I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Brecht Behrens is also going to be your Premier champion as well, as I, again, do not think there's enough points up for grabs left in the season, but it's still down to the wire just about between Lucchesi and Dennebrega going into this second and final race this season.
Yeah, so as we just watch the rest of the field come across the line, it's quite the result for this race. 2 champions crowned. That's still something for the 15th race of this 16 race season. But only one half of round 10 has gone through. Yeah.
Well, we've got a few minutes to just take a breather, take a break, and well, I still don't really know what other drivers tend to do during these warm-ups, but I've mentioned before that I usually just take some time to, just do something else, have a calm down, especially if you've had a bad first race. You just need to let it go. And well, as a famous man once said, you have to have the memory of a goldfish, and you've just got to forget about it and move on to the race, the next race, and focus on that. Go get a drink, go, grab some biscuits or some cookies, wherever you're from, some crisps or some chips if you're American, or just go for a bathroom break, go talk to someone and have a chill before the onslaught of race 2 begins.
Well, that's provided that's your sort of thing. Well, I was going to suggest a bathroom break myself, but I just realized my lifetime has come down, and I want that back up for the next race, because just watching those gaps tick over, you sort of notice how the field evolves and comes through.
Yeah, you really do got to focus on the gaps here at Laguna Seca because it is just such a short track. It can change so quickly, and we saw at the end there, especially with some of the back markers, that it changes like that, like the click of a finger. You just have to get through these back markers as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And if it's anything like race 1, race 2 should be a little bit more attrition focused, as it usually is. And multi-class racing here is difficult enough. Trying to pass a car of the same speed and same class as you is just not fun. As I believe Corey Price is fully aware that he's currently being streamed, as he's flashing the cameras there. So hello, Corey. If you are listening, good luck for the second race tonight, and maybe we can have a chat with Corey after the race if he's feeling brave enough. And still got a few minutes to go left in this warm-up session, and well, even I feel like I need a break after that first race.
Yeah, it looks like number 22. Who's that again? Was showing off a little bit of the tire marks and tire smoke, which I guess that counts as a break as well for these cars, because they've got to be going full tilt all the way through. It's entertaining to be able to just sort of leave tire marks down, leave some smoke around, and show that you're celebrating. I've heard in some cases that for those demonstrator cars that do donuts and stuff, they actually have to build them specially for it, because it's just not designed to do that as a race car normally. So just as another mark of how talented drivers are, they ring out a celebration out of a car that's not meant for it. It's not time to celebrate yet though, because Lucchese and Dino Brega are still contending for that championship, and first and second are now, if I've done the math right this time, just under 25 points between Lucchese and Dino Brega, which is not very many positions between them to create a switch around.
Yeah, it definitely has the opportunity to switch on its head extremely quickly if something happens to Dino Brega. So I wouldn't be surprised that if going into this next race, he just takes it a bit easy and because that's the thing, in these second races, it's always been his weakness. It's always been when something has happened, and he just needs to make sure it doesn't this time. And obviously, as a driver, sometimes things are out of your control, but you can definitely do things to make sure that you're as safe as humanly possible. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dino Brega does exactly that, but he can't let his teammate just run away with it, because that will make his life very, very difficult indeed. As the warm-up has now indeed finished, and we can get into the starting grid for the last time here in this Evolution Sim Racing Championship. It's been a fantastic one, and been an absolute pleasure for all of you watching, and we hope to continue going forward. But for one final time, let's go through the grid then. It's Andrew Fairley starting on pole position, John Brayton back in second, Matt Hoyland lining up on the second row in third, Alex Fretwell next to him in fourth, Dean Powell in fifth, Thomas Pugh in sixth, Ryan Otins in seventh, Danny Lee in eighth place. And then in ninth is going to be Ruben Behrings in 10th, Luke Van Gortel, Tristan Dino Brega and Lucchese lining up alongside each other on the sixth row of the grid. Roll Turf Crew getting his second race win in 13th, just one place off 12th. That is a little bit heartbreaking for him. Stefan Gattuso in 14th place, Jennings in 15th, Ashley Brooks in 16th. Your, I believe, champion for this season in the Evo class, Character Lesser in 17th, Newton 18th, Preston 19th, McKee in 20th, Bostock in 21st, Brayton back 22nd, Collishaw in 23rd, Corey Price in 24th place, Christopher Radloff in 25th, James Pallow in 26th, Victor Van Ziest in 27th, Chris Keenan in 28th, Luke King in 29th, Danny Weir in 30th place, Brex Behrings in 31st, Sean Clark in 32nd place. And in 33rd is going to be Martin Koch, 34th, Stefan Donnelly, 35th, Robin Noel Brown, 36th, Joe Sparza, 37th, Liam Kelso, 38th, Scott Kostrick, 39th, John Ludbrook, and 40th place it will be Francois Brandet. And the final few drivers of Joe Glass, Tom Weston, and Dennis Collar, rounding out your 43 car grid. My God, I need a drink of water.
Yeah, 43 cars, 43 drivers lined up behind the pace car. That's a lot of cars to go through, and they haven't even gotten started yet. But I guess the anticipation of the formation lap really sort of just antes up the pressure for the drivers and the fans. I hope you all are listening. I hope you all are enjoying this, especially because with the championship contenders starting in 11th and 12th, they've got to go through quite a bit of field to make points difference. 25 is the number, I believe, that Lucchesi needs to outscore Dinabriga by to get his championship. Needless to say, Dinabriga will not be having any of that and will be going as far up the field as possible. I'm not even going to try and do the math and figure out what they need to do the win, because Laguna Seca will decide for itself how the field will get through it.
Yeah,
Yes,
they couldn't really have summed that up more perfectly, to be honest. Well, that's what we saw in the first race, wasn't it? Just the track kind of deciding how people's fate is going to end up in that race. And, well, how's people's fate going to end up in this second race? We shall find out over the next 30 minutes. And, well, for Dinabriga, he's going to have the inside line into the first corner, which is definitely going to be advantage him, as it's Andrew Fairley who will be leading us away for the last time this season as he stamps on it straight away. That's a great start for Andrew Fairley and caught the cars behind off guard. Brayton Back was definitely not expecting that one at all. He's now coming under a bit of pressure from the cars behind as we head into turn one. These guys going nearly 3 wide. Lucchesi's being hung out to dry on the outside. Dinabriga keeps ahead of his teammate though, which is exactly what he needs going into this last race. He now tucks in behind Ruben Behrens. Can he actually get past the Belgian going into turn 4? Takes it a bit easy, which is what he needs to do. And that's 2 cars taking each other out. And that's Ashley Brooks, Danny Lee, I apologise, and someone else. Not sure which Porsche that was. I think you're right. That was Luc Van Gortel indeed. But that's helped Tristan Dinabriga and Lucchesi moving 2 cars out of the way at the start of this race.
Yeah, they've climbed quite a bit of field in the process as they stream down to the corkscrew for the first time again. I think everyone will definitely want to keep it tidier this time because they've still got most of the 30 minutes to go. Andrew Fairley is defending hard from Brayton Bach because, that's just a little bit of gravel on the outside. Coming around the first corner, and it is definitely too close for comfort for Andrew Fairley. He still leads as he crosses the line, but going into the hairpin, who's going to come out on top? Fairley's taking a defensive line, but Brenbach's later on the brakes. He can hang it around the outside a little bit, but just not able to get by this time. It's the rest of the field stream through. Dinabriga and Lucchesi are still in holding pattern in 7th and 8th it is. So they've climbed up a few spots, but they do not want... Sparza just came out of the pit. It looks like we've already got a handful of casualties. We can't tell if that's a pit issue or... he's in a really awkward spot right there because you don't want the entirety of the field streaming by as you're sort of trying to get up to speed, and indeed getting around them is going to be tough on this narrow Laguna Seca.
As that is Dean Powell coming under pressure from Thomas Pugh, and that chonky Mercedes keeping ahead of Thomas Pugh there as they were fighting over 4th. But that's just how big the Mercedes and the BMW are. They are absolute chonksters compared to the rest of the grid. And that's what happens when you put a great honking V8 in your car. it's big, and therefore your car is probably going to be big, as that was a Lambo going off the track as well. These are the two teammates, the two championship rivals going side by side. How clean are we going to be? No team orders, of course, as they're fighting for themselves now. Dennebrega just about holding onto that inside line nicely and keeping ahead of his teammate for now anyway. It just seems like that outside line going into turn 2 just doesn't seem to work. It's ever so slightly off camber on the outside, and it just leaves you with so much understeer, and there's just no grip out there whatsoever, as Dennebrega probably wants to be making his way past these cars in front. Well, ASAP probably. Yeah,
it's still too close between them to slot a piece of paper through, so both Dennebrega and Lucchesi have their targets in this race, and they're driving like heck just to get to them. Lucchesi is the one with the uphill challenge. I think Dennebrega might have enough points if he finishes in this position to seal the championship. Meanwhile, the rest of the elite class are still almost the top 10 are less than 10 seconds between them.
Yeah, pretty much Dennebrega. Yeah, I was just going to say that Dennebrega, just pretty much like you were saying, needs to finish within those first kind of couple places in front or behind of his teammates, as that was a car going loop-de-loop round turn 2. That's Luke Van Gortel. He's had an absolute shocker of second race here tonight, as he's down 10 places already from starting in 10th. Had a very, very good first race, finished on the podium, of course, and well, is a long way back and has a lot of work to do in this race. He's overheated those tyres, as Dennebrega still putting under pressure Thomas Pugh and forces him wide. Dennebrega now right on the back of Dean Powell. Is he going to go for a move into the corkscrew? I can't imagine he will, but Dean is going to go for a move on Ruben Bearings into the corkscrew, but Ruben, a wily old fox for that one, didn't leave Dean any room and just about kept him honest, as Dennebrega, you can tell just how passive he's being, almost too passive, as he nearly clipped the orange curb there, had to check up and has put himself under pressure from his teammate, as that was Pugh getting awfully close to the car behind. I believe that might be Turfcrewer who's put under pressure. But here we go then, once again, these two going side by side, as Dennebrega with the inside line should be able to keep a hold of this position, and he does very, very well, as Powell still trying to get past Ruben Bearings for fourth place, but he just cannot do it. And a huge gap is already opening up between Bearings and Ryan Otins for fifth, as it's already about 5 or 6 seconds. This is how hard these guys have been battling. It's costing them so much time.
Yes. And the trouble with both of them just ran wide. Yeah, as they battle each other, they're slipping the clutches of the drivers behind them, and as they stay side by side, the drivers behind get side by side, and it's almost like a concertina effect. Except this time instead of a concertina, it's a spring. Denebrega's lost it. Denebrega's lost the place to Lucchesi. Lucchesi is ahead of Dennebrega, and now can start setting about getting as many points as he can for his championship hopes alive.
Yeah, Dennebrega needed to be a little bit more alert there. He nearly lost the place as well to Thomas Pugh and Turfcrewer behind. He just was completely caught napping there by his teammate, and fair play to Lucchesi. He kind of needed to go for that move round the outside of the corkscrew. Dennebrega had to check up because of Dean, and Lucchesi just did not let this one go. Round the outside, very brave braking as we head downhill. A little bit of contact there between himself and Dennebrega, but he's got to do it if he wants any chance of this championship, and he has done it. He's ahead of his teammate, and now Dennebrega is going to be a little bit under pressure, and well, we'll see if that gets to him in the coming laps, as Roll Turfcrewer is fighting with Danny Lee, as that was a Lamborghini going through turn 5 who nearly lost it. A lot of cars really, really struggling in this second race here at Laguna Seca. And that's what I'm talking about. I just think the nature of the track brings on attrition. I've seen it time and time again, and today is no different.
Yeah, one driver that is rising to the challenge is Jean Breitenbach, because he's taken the lead from Andrew Fairley while we were watching the hullabaloo all up in the more minor placings, but more major in the championship indeed. Lucchesi now has to try and get past Dean Powell, who has been defending like a rabid honey badger from what I can tell, because he's already had altercations across up and down the grid from 5th to 9th. Lucchesi's just past Dean Powell, and Thomas Pugh goes with him. This is the move for the lead. Jean Breitenbach getting by Andrew Fairley around the outside the hairpin. That's something special indeed.
But honestly, we've seen some fantastic action here at Laguna Seca today, and in these opening 10 minutes in this last race, and Breitenbach, like you said, very much rising to the occasion and has taken the lead, but hasn't managed to pull away from Andrew Fairley. And the slipstream in these cars isn't very powerful, and especially at this track it's not very powerful, as I think that's a lapped car just getting out the way of everyone. I thought it was just a guy completely cutting the track there, but no, he's just getting out the way. I think actually, no, never mind, that might be Van Gortel, my apologies. But here's Roll Turf Crew as we're heading into turn 2. That's a very weird spin. It's kind of happened in the middle of the corner. I don't know if he was fighting that Porsche pretty much the entire braking and then just completely lost it going into entry. But that was a very awkward spin there for Turf Crew, who was having a very, very good race up until that moment. As Luke Van Gortel has come into the pit, so it was him who was cutting the track. As this is what happens to Dana Brager. He's had a bit of a moment himself. And actually, that's Lucchesi making contact with Dean Powell. That is very interesting, as that was more contact there behind with Danny Lee and Gattuso, I think. So a lot happening when we were cutting away. As Lucchesi, oh, that was a bit silly there from Luke. There was not really an opportunity to go up the inside there, and I'm not sure if he'll get a penalty for that. I'm not 100% sure how the penalty system works in this championship, but that's very much was a silly little error there from Lucchesi.
Been behind in sympathy almost. But I think it was just when the field checked up, he had to check up as well, and because his car was just loaded frontward in the hairpin, couldn't help but spin it.
Yeah, a lot happened within a few corners, as, yeah, that's Danny Lee ramming up the back of Gattuso to put him in the middle of the track, and there was another car! I think that was Corey Price and Luke Van Gortel, who all of them, wow, that was like 5 or 6 cars who all had their own separate incidents. And it's wow, only in the span of about 3 corners, some of the drivers' races have really flipped on their head.
Yeah, we talk about a domino effect, but that was a domino tower going right over right there. Dean Powell is not doing very well either. It looks like he's dropping.
He's falling down, yeah.
Yeah. Dino Brega is still...
Oh, there he is.
That's him on the graph. That explains. Dino Brega himself is hanging in there, but with Lucchesi putting a little bit of distance between him and Thomas Pugh, it looks like Dino Brega might have a little bit more work if he wants to make something a bit more from this race. But given that both the RDSA esports drivers have had almost the same sort of incident, they might be carrying a bit of damage as well, so they'll have to manage that through the rest of the race.
Yeah, you definitely could be right, as they do not look as quick as they once did. As yeah, Corey Price has been taken out of this race, unfortunately. And we probably won't be seeing him at all for the rest of this race, as this is Robin Noel Brown fighting with Turf Kura for 4th place, excuse me, though. As, well, just a lot happened in a very, very short space of time, as Corey was caught up in this Gattuso incident up ahead, and I don't think he had too much, well, didn't really have anywhere to go, as the Italian Stefan there just maybe could have done a bit better, maybe could have held his brakes, but when you're in a car with ABS, it's a little bit harder to just come to a complete dead stop, and maybe causing a bit of difficulties there, as we are now going side by side, going into turn 6. That's a bit squeaky bum time as Tom Weston makes his way past Chris Keenan, not for position in class, but just overall, as we've had another incident at the corkscrew. Is that Brayton back? It's not your race leader, it's Marcel Brayton back in the Premier class, and I wonder who that was. I don't know if that was Powell again. It was one of the Mercedes cars, one of the Danny Lee Racing Mercedes, but well, Danny Lee's still up at the top of the field, so it must have been Dean Powell who got involved in that, as Turf Kura and Noel Brown, they were still fighting, and Noel Brown went into Brayton back, and they all just ran into the back of each other. Big check-up at the corkscrew there. And, well, if we thought race 1 was attrition focused, this race has just turned up the notch a little bit, as Brayton back going a bit deep into turn 1.
Just a bit deep this time. This time, not too much issue, but yeah, you can see when everyone's close together and someone has an incident, it ripples down right through the field as everyone starts piling into just that same little bit of track. And there's not a lot of Laguna Seca to go around. More than makes up for it by just having that much more places for it to happen. Yeah, the Dean Powell, you can see the incident beginning to kick off up ahead. As you come over that crest, you see everyone's had to check up. Dean Powell just had nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer there for Dean Powell, who was looking fairly racy today and could have scored very, very well. But just incident after incident after that first one with Lucchesi just has really ruined his race. And yeah, like you said, Bradley, it is a bit of a domino effect where one driver or two drivers have an awkward incident and then it clusters up the field like a pack of roosters or something, and then they all just start freaking out, clucking and flapping their wings, and then it all just goes balls to the wall, hell from hell. It just goes absolute chaos, and it does take a little while for that to start calming down. And I think we are getting to that point where I think everyone has realized, okay, we need to chill a little bit, but we've still got some cars recovering and coming into the pits because of these last few laps. And Pala and Keenan being the next few victims, unfortunately, in this race. And we can see what happened to James. And I believe it was just all by himself, but of course, something random could happen to him as, that's just the car stepping out. And well, that's what the Lamborghini has done for a lot of drivers this season. It can be very, very tricky at the rear, and James proving that once again, as they completely lost all grip going into turn 6. And we have lost a lot of drivers in this race, and even more are out there on the track injured with some level of damage to their cars. Lucchesi being one of them, of course, that contact with Dean Powell damaging the front of his Porsche, but still setting the pace in this race. He's currently, I believe, the fastest man on track, and yes, he is, by at least a few tenths from some of the drivers around him.
Yeah, that's a recent lap he set as well, so it looks like he's trying to finally get his car back in his stride and catch as many of the front runners as possible. The top three are within 2 seconds of each other, while Ruben Bearings and Lucchesi are just a few seconds further up the road. It's not very much past halfway distance yet, so there's still enough time for Lucchesi to have an effect on the race, the podium, and the championship. Oh, but
It's
he just
gonna-
ran right there.
Yeah, he's definitely pushing the limits of this car, and I don't blame him. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. I don't think he cares realistically where he finishes in this race. It's just more about where Dana Brager finishes. And it's gotten very, very hairy for both Lucchesi and Dana Brager in this race already, both having some incidents as Dean Powell coming into the pits, I imagine, to fix some of the damage that he's occurred over the last few laps. And so, well, for Lucchesi to even have a chance in this one, he's got to set some kind of world record lap. He has to be on it for the next about 11 and a half minutes. He's got to get through Ruben Behrings, who is a fantastic driver himself, and then get past Alex Fretwell and Matt Hoyland, who are both in separate classes from him. So that's going to be a bit painful, working so hard to catch up to cars that aren't really going to have an effect on your championship. But if you can get past those two within the next few laps, he might just have a shot at the podium, which could be enough if Dana Brager stays where he is or maybe gets worse.
Yeah, Lucchesi's got quite a lot of work to do, and you can tell he's using as much of Laguna Seca as he can find, and then a few bits more that we never knew existed, I guess. Tristan Dana Brager looks like he's not plodding along at all. He's still got plenty of pace in him, and his personal best is only 2 seconds off the purple time it's only 2.5 tenths of the purple time of Luc Van Gortel. Just so happens Lucchesi hasn't set anything faster. Looks like Luc Van Gortel has finally got a fixed car, so he's putting in what good laps he can while there's still racing left. Breitenbach and Fairley up at the front are getting a lot closer together. It's less than half a second between them now, and Ottens himself is only another second and a half up the road, so it's still really close at the front. That will be one competitive podium come the end of this race, but in the meantime, it looks like things have calmed down just a little bit for the moment, which definitely helps the driver's cause, because you want the action, but you also want the results, the points. Saraka Dessler right there is fighting for that last podium place, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he is. He's got Victor Van Zeest not too far ahead of him, but he's being hounded by Becht Behrings right now, who is also being hounded by Jennings behind, so they're all fighting for the same level of tarmac. They've got Van Zeest just about a second and a half up the road, so Brecht has kind of got to make his way past Eric de Slesser fairly soon, as it's getting very close between the front two of the field. Breitenbach, of course, made his way past about 10-15 minutes ago in this race, but hasn't really managed to do anything apart from that, and Andrew Fairley is hounding him now. He's putting on the pressure, as those tyres on that Porsche are probably screaming out for help. And don't count out Ryan Oates, who hasn't managed to get a win so far this season, even though he's been one of the more consistent and quickest drivers. He's third in the championship in the elite category as they get so close, heading onto the front straight. And where are the lines going to be chosen between these two? It would be smart if Breitenbach goes towards the inside. It's the favourable line defending into turn one, but can Andrew be brave enough on the brakes? He's gotten ahead, but can he stay ahead? Round the outside he goes. That is fantastic from Andrew Fairley. He's going to have the inside line for the next corner, and he's put himself onto the top step. And take your hat off, Andrew Fairley. That was a fairly good move from the Brits, and well, just take a bow. That was brilliant stuff and good racing between those two. Breitenbach, of course, needs to have the awareness for where he is, and Ryan Oates now putting the pressure on the South African as we head through turn 6. I can sense a move potentially coming up to the corkscrew for Ryan Otins. He's coming into the corkscrew now, late on the brakes for the both of them, and Otins round the outside. Amazing for the 264 Ferrari Alpha Esports car. That is just amazing. Lots of amazing moves on this lap, and 2 of them being round the outside. Very, very ballsy move. Now, can Ryan catch up to the back of Andrew and grab that oh so important first win of the season, which, let's be honest, he's definitely deserved.
Yeah, barely. Ottens and Breitenbach all have their best lap time within 20 thousandths of each other. So, in fact, Andrew Fairley and Jan Breitenbach have got exactly the same best lap time. Ryan Ottens down there has pulled what has to be the third round the outside maneuver we've seen from these 3 drivers in this race, and in fact, each one of them has pulled off an overtake around the outside. As we see, oh, that's Tom Weston in the gravel. But yeah, as I was saying, Andrew Fairley sort of gave payback to Breitenbach by doing the round the outside at the hairpin. Same corner, he suffered it earlier in the race from Breitenbach himself. Unfortunately here, Tom Weston we see has had another moment. Oh, it's over the curve,
Yeah,
especially at the
yeah, you can kind of see with the way that he went into that corner that was going to happen, as Victor Van Ziest has had an issue. As we were watching the battle for the podium, which has promoted Breck Behrens into 3rd. And what on earth has happened to Victor Van Ziest? And there's some more expletives going on in the race chat. Wonder what's happened out here. And that's a big whack right up the chuff. And that was Sarek de Slesser who ran into the back of Van Ziest, fighting for position. And, well, Sarek de Slesser definitely going to have to apologise for that one. So just run straight into the back of him and punts Victor Van Ziest around. And Victor's definitely going to be feeling that one figuratively and literally. I can't imagine his Porsche is handling too well after that big whack, as Robin Noel Brown going very, very wide, having to be careful coming back onto the track. Definitely do not want to have any bad rejoins this late in the race. As, by the way, Luke Lucchesi has managed to get past all the drivers who I was saying he needed to get past. He's gone past Behrens, Fretwell, and Matt Hoyland. So there is now about 4 cars. It is about 4 cars between Lucchesi and Tenebrega. And I'm not sure if this will be enough for the championship. 25 points is a lot of points. I just don't know. I don't think it's going to be quite enough, as this is what happened to Ruben. Got very, very loose coming out of turn 5, and Luke just went straight on by. Thank you very much. Lucchesi has a lot of work to do. He needs to catch up 4 seconds to the guys ahead, which I don't think he's going to do. Not because I think he's slow or anything, but because he would have to be about 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds quicker per lap than the guys ahead. And, well, the fastest lap between these guys is only about 3/10 between each other. So I don't think Luke Lucchesi is going to turn into a GT2 car anytime soon. But who knows? He might bring out something, like a 2 extra cylinders. I don't know, but he's going to have to hope and pray that something happens up at the front, whilst Otins and Fairley getting closer and closer. If an incident happens between those two, that could be very, very close for the championship, as Alex Fretwell and Matt Hoyland now battling for the lead in the Premier class. This should be a fantastic way to end off the season for both of these guys. A bit frustrating for Matt. The last few rounds, he just hasn't had any luck or much pace, to be honest. And it's just kind of fallen away from him in terms of the championship. But at least today, if he can win this race, he'll end it on a high and that will be good spirits going into next season. And we'll see if Matt Hoyland can give a title challenge proper and throughout the whole season and just work on that consistency.
Yeah, it's quite a treat with 2 minutes left to go in this race. For the top two classes, the top two drivers are within less than a second of each other, so we've got a fight to the finish in two separate classes, almost one right behind the other. Ottens is still within half a second of Fairley in the elite class, and Hoyland is still right on the tail of Alex Fretwell in Premier class. And it's not a fight I would put money on to bring. Not just because I'm unlucky, but because they're just so close together. Meanwhile, I think that's Dino Brega going for 6th. He's made it past Thomas Pugh for 6th place, which is I think an almost ironclad points tally as we're getting into the last lap of the race. It's really hard to say if Dino Brega could have done more for himself, but to be fair, you don't need to do more in racing when all you need is enough to get the points, get the finish, get that championship. Lucchesi himself will probably wish he had done more because he's closing just that little bit. It looks like he might have actually taken a second out of Brindbach that last lap, but there's just not enough laps left. And Ottens might have just another chance himself as we're getting to the final 30 seconds, final corners of this race. In fact, I don't think there will be another lap. It will be Ryan Ottens trying to get the win. Hold it right behind. Hoyland's just past Fretwell. This is going right down to the wire, and I have no idea which one we're going to try and follow the finish. Andrew Fairley has held on to it. He's made it through the last corner just fine. He's kept just far enough ahead. And you can see the celebrations as he crosses the line. That's a fantastic win for Renton. Luke Lucchesi comes in 4th. I'm not sure he's done enough. Oh, Alex Fretwell. And Hoyland.
As Alex Fretwell and Matt Hoyland seemingly went wheel to wheel in those final few corners. And that could have been an amazing finish. We'll take a look at a replay of what happened between those two on that final lap. As I think big things have happened in the Evo class as well. A lot of shake-ups. Some drivers, I think, not expecting there to be another lap as Bostock. Weirdly, I think he's going to take his first victory of the season completely by surprise. I don't think he was expecting this at all. Coming across the line is the Kame GP2 McLaren. As he gets his first win of the season, that's going to be a good feeling for James. As Rob McKee as well grabs 2nd place in the Evo class. And unfortunately, like you were saying, Ottens just wasn't able to get close enough. But this is what happens between Fretwell and Hoyland. Going into the final corner, a late dive for Fretwell. It's completely fair. But on the exit, definitely ran Hoyland a little bit wide, but a little bit of argy-bargy between those two, and you love to see it. Very, very intense racing on that last lap, and we can take another look at it and just get another judge of what happened between these two. I don't think Matt is going to be feeling too happy about that one, as it wasn't really anywhere Matt could have gone, to be honest. So maybe Alex might be in trouble with the stewards after the race. But either way, there was a fantastic finish between those two. And I believe that Dino Brega has done enough to crown himself the Season 6 Evolution Sim Racing GT3 champion in the elite class. And that is absolutely brilliant from him. It's been a tough and difficult season, and it's just been back and forth between himself and the teammates. And let's see if he can do some donuts. You might want to turn traction control off, Tristan. That's definitely would help. I think someone needs to tell him to turn traction control off, then he'll be able to do some donuts. As his teammates figured it out, and so has Ruben Bearings, as all the drivers begin the celebrations as of course the season has now officially come to an end. And just wow, that was a fantastic final race. It was action-packed from the word go, and all of our drivers celebrating together. And although Lucchesi couldn't defend his championship from last season, I think he'll still be proud with himself that he at least took it all the way down to the wire.
Yeah, the fact that it came down to pretty much the last lap of the last race of this season, I think shows just the quality of the competition between the two of them. And I've only just showed up for this race, so they put on quite the good show. And just that finish last corner of the last lap for Alex Fretwell and Matt Hoyland, I think that's something worth replaying again and again. I can tell you that, because just that's the sort of action you love to see from GT3 cars. Just being close together, being able to race each other all the way to the end, between drivers of fantastic and really close together quality. You can't beat it, can you?
No, you definitely can't. It was great racing all through tonight and throughout this entire season between our entire field, and I've definitely liked this championship. It's been an absolutely great watch, and I hope that going into next season we can get a couple more races that are a little bit weather affected, and maybe some 1 hour races as well. I think we needed a little bit more of those. I loved the strategy in those races. I think this series would definitely benefit from some more of those races, and we can quickly pull up the results of that second and final race for you now. And it was Andrew Fairley taking the victory, and a very, very well-deserved victory as well. He was on it in those final few laps and just about managed to win ahead of Ryan Oaten, who once again just has to settle for second place, and he definitely deserved to win this season. Just finished outside of it once again, but he finishes in second place. It was Jean Braithen back in third, Luke Lucchesi fourth, Ruben Behrings in fifth, Alex Fretwell in sixth, Matt Hoyland in seventh. Alex Fretwell, of course, taking the victory in the Premier class. Tristan Dennebrega, your elite champion for this season, then finishing in 8th place. Thomas Pugh in 9th, Danny Lee in 10th. And we'll just go over the top 20 drivers here. Luke King with an amazing comeback to finish in 11th. Christopher Radloff in 12th. Brett Behrings in 13th place. Chris Jennings in 14th. Hussein Serek in 15th. James Bostock taking the win in Evo for the first time this season. Stefan Donnelly in 17th. Rob McKee in 18th. Gareth Newton in 19th. And Victor Van Ziest rounding out your top 20. And I believe we've got some drivers waiting for us in the interview area. I will quickly bring up Andrew Fairley, and I'll have a quick chat with our race winner then. Welcome to the booth, Andrew. It's a pleasure to have you back here once again. And well, it wasn't an easy day for you today at all. Was under a lot of pressure in that second race, but you still managed to grab a race victory. Tell us how you're feeling.
I am exhausted. That was one of the sweatiest races I've ever done, really. The key move was the move on Ashley in race 1 to get 12th position for the reverse grid pole. I was just speaking to him there in the waiting area, and he wasn't happy about the lapped car, because that's what made it happen, really.
Oh man, we can tell. I think you've just explained to us sort of how your race win was built up from just that little bit of luck in race 1. So maybe talk us through also the battle you had with Brittenbach. You got passed around the outside earlier in the race, didn't you?
Yeah, I had a slowdown which I was trying to tactically get rid of, but it didn't. I just had to let him go because I couldn't wait any longer to save the slowdown. Otherwise, I would have got a black flag.
All right. So you sort of paid him right back later on the race with exactly the same maneuver, it looked like, from the cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently got triple screens, and it's like door-to-door racing. It's helped so massively. Like, not one point did we make contact. The same in Sebring when we were side by side with Jean on the last lap.
Yeah. Ooh, I think that's an advertisement for triple screens right there, Andrew. Yeah. Throughout the race, did you sort of have to manage the tires to keep the pace, or were you on it the whole way through?
In a 30-minute race, you can absolutely thrash the car for 30 minutes, so you don't need to look after tyres at all. I made a few mistakes, and it dropped me a second to Jean, so I just had to work so hard to get him back, because he's not a slow guy. He's got pace. But yeah, it was really tough to catch him, and then it was even harder to pass him, because that Porsche at the last corner was just, it's out of the slow corners. It's renowned for just pulling away quite well.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that a lot this season, and the Porsche just looks insane to go up against. But you did it, and you won. So be damn proud of yourself that you can say that, especially after tonight was really, really difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he did actually brake quite early for turn one as well. I don't know if it was just because of the inside line. But yeah, he did help me get the move by braking a little bit earlier, I thought, as well. So again, that was just a bit of luck from my side.
Yeah, definitely. But it was a well-deserved victory for you nonetheless. And I'm sure you're going to go celebrate that after this. And, well, speaking of, anyone you want to give a mention or shout out to for this race win?
Just want to give a shout out to my team, really, because, without a few of my teammates, I wouldn't be as knowledgeable as I am with setup. So, yeah, and just obviously the league for putting on the league. Obviously, we'll be back next season, and then obviously the commentators as well. You do a great job.
Oh, you're going to make me blush, Andrew, at this rate. But yeah, I'm sure all of the admins at the Evolution Sim Racing Championship will appreciate it as well. Been a fantastic season from them. Been a good season from you as well, picking up a few victories on the way. And we hope to see you back next season, Andrew. Take care.
Yeah, I will be back next season, and I'll see you then.
Good to hear. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Great.
And so that was Andrew Furley, your race winner of race 2 then. And well, it's going to be a bit rude to not drag up Tristan Dennebrager, who is your Season 6 Elite champion. And well, Tristan, it wasn't an easy race 2 for you, but who cares? You're the champion. So how do you feel about that one?
Before we continue, would you mind letting Luke join the interview as well? It'd be cool to just, because we wrapped it up as a constructors win as well, so it'd be cool.
Yes, I believe we can do that. So for the first time, we have both RDSA drivers with us, and it was a super, super close championship between you two, and you've both been absolutely brilliant this season. So just talk us how through both of you are feeling.
Yeah, pretty good. Okay, Luco.
Yeah, I'm happy with the P2. I mean, having won the last 2, so I mean, Tristan deserves the championship. So yeah, nothing more to really say. I mean, I'm not disappointed. I mean, we got a P1 and P2 in the team's championship, which is the result. The points gap isn't that big, so yeah, no, I'm happy.
I think
I was just going to say, I'm sure you guys are absolutely over the moon. It's been a very, very good and consistent season for you two. And well, just talk to us about where you kind of think the championship turned for you, Tristan, and where you kind of thought, yeah, I can win this.
I think, obviously, this is the first season Luke and I have taken different cars since we started racing in ESR. So, like I said to you guys last week, we joined in Season 2. And since then, we've always been in the same car. So this was the first one where we did different takes. And obviously, you could see the strengths of the different cars at different tracks. So I think overall, it was quite nice because, yeah, we always got to the next week and you never knew who was going to have the advantage. I think what really helped me was the 1 hour events. It looked like the McLaren just held onto its tires better in those events. And I think the win at Fuji when when Luke was super dominant, he got pole and he was driving away in that race, where we managed to turn it around and obviously his tyres fell off and we managed to grab the win there. I think that really shifted the momentum back in my favour. And then we had some strong results after that, grabbing a few more wins. And then last week was a bit sketchy at Sebring in race 2, obviously being involved in that contact and dropping out in race 2 and dropping 19 points. So that wasn't fun. But it seesawed a lot. I mean, at some points in the championship, Luke had like a 25-point advantage, and then I'd eat away, and then I'd have a 20-point advantage, and he would eat away. So it was close, and it was a good battle. So I had good fun.
Yeah, it was fantastic to watch. Just the tail end of it here from me. It's my first time commentating, and so Luke and Tristan, you've put on quite the great show. So, like, could you just talk me through sort of like your process in this last round? Just between the qualifying and the race, you could tell there were sort of differences between the two of your setups and your driving styles. Like, how did it work out?
Luke, you want to go?
I think the Porsche is better suited for this circuit. And obviously because the temperatures are nice and cool, it holds onto its tires. So you can really lean on the Porsche and use the traction to your advantage. Especially at the beginning of the race when the tires are cold, you can actually push quite hard, and that's I think where I managed to pull the gap in race 1 and then control the race from there. Race 2 is always a gamble from the reverse grid because it's very difficult to pass in GT3 in general, so it's sort of the luck of the draw, make a move where you can and try and stay out of trouble as far as you can and get a good result, a good points result. I think that's been the attitude the whole season. It's the reverse grid races that has determined the results, who scores more on the day.
Thanks, Luke and Tristan. I think that's a really illuminating insight, and looks like it'll be an important one to listen to as we go into the next season as well.
Yeah, look, I think next season we'll probably be in the same car again. And then obviously there's a whole bunch of new guys that are joining, so I think competition is going to be tight, so we'll have to work hard, and I think that's the motivation to try and use the same car, because then we can push each other to go faster and build a setup that we'll both be using that is good, analyze data and so forth.
Well, I mean, going into next season, me personally, I can't wait to see you two go wheel to wheel again, and especially if you're in the same car, just meaning it's going to be even closer. And I don't know why, I already get the feeling it's probably going to be the Porsche. It's just, unless iRacing nerfs it into the ground for next season, we shall wait and see. But either way, new competition is always good. For us commentators, at least, you drivers might hate it, but it's fun to watch anyway. But it's been an absolute pleasure from you two this entire season. It's been absolutely amazing to watch you two go wheel to wheel, and hopefully we get to see more of that next season. And just from both of you, anyone you want to give a mention or shout out to for this amazing last 10 round?
You want to go, Tristan?
Again, to Luke, awesome racing with him again and doing another season. To our sponsors, RDSA, Sparko, Spirit Invest, Ravenol, obviously we appreciate their support, and I'm going to thank Luke's parents because I know he'll thank them as well. They're obviously always supporting him, and it's awesome to see that his family get involved. And they're quite passionate about watching the streams, which is amazing. So thanks to them for always supporting him and the team. And thanks to the guys in the league and to you guys also for watching our racing the whole season and rooting for us, and really covering the battle quite nicely. So thanks for that.
Well, based on what Tristan said, I'll just have a Coke.
Well, fair enough. You've both definitely deserve a bit of a rest after the effort you've put into this season, and I'm sure your team will be extremely happy with the way you've both acted and performed on track and off track. So good luck to you both for the future, and we hope to see you both fighting for it again come next season.
Yeah, thanks very much, and to you guys for obviously the awesome stream. So thanks.
you're going to make me blush again. Honestly, you've all been great. But yeah, thank you for your time, guys, and we'll see you next season.
Yeah, cheers.
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 And, well, because it's the last race of the season, we'll quickly do one more interview as well. With Ashley Brooks, who managed to win the Evo Championship, albeit it was kind of already known before this race, but Ashley, you still must be happy nevertheless. It's looked very, very good at the start of the season. Then the middle of the season, it got a bit hairy, but over the last few rounds, you've just been on it. Tell us how you're feeling.
Buzzing, to be honest. Great season, to be honest. Like you said, mid-season drop was a bit gutting. Few accidents, couldn't be helped. But we regrouped. Bit of help from Tristan with my brakes, and we was back on it. So quite happy with how the season's gone, and to be a championship winner, very happy about that.
Well, always becoming a championship winner's a fantastic feeling, and well, just going into next season, you'll probably be moving up a class, I'm guessing. So if you are going to be in the Premier class, do you think that perhaps you might be able to take the fight to that championship as well, as occasionally you were able to fight with not just the Premiers, but sometimes the Elites as well?
Well, we're moving up to the Pro class, because there's 4 classes for next season.
Oh.
So I'll be in the second tier at the 4. But I'm hoping to come back a lot stronger and try and challenge for top 3 at least. Some quick drivers in there, some new drivers that have signed up. So my goal is top 3 and see what we can do, and hopefully some more good results.
Well, my advice would set your goal higher than you actually think it will be. So just say, why not? Let's just go for the whole damn championship and see what happens. Because you never know. You honestly never know what might happen, as you've performed brilliantly this season. And, well, the last few rounds have definitely been a showcase of that. And, well, to sum up this great season of yours, anyone you want to give a mention or shout out to for this championship?
My teammates at MRC, they've pushed me. They've kept me calm for the season. And Francois, you know, he's been a great competitor, great friend. We spoke every day sort of thing about the championship. Bit salty that he's had bad results, because I wanted a good battle on track with him to win it, but I'm just happy he managed to take the GT4 championship. So this season we're both champions, so I'm quite happy and proud about it.
Yeah, you two definitely should be proud of the performance you've had. It's been amazing from you both, and we hope to see you and Francois giving it everything you've got in the next season. And, well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to come and speak to us, Ashley. And once again, congratulations on that championship. Go and enjoy it.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers. And that was Ashley Brooks, bringing us to a close of interviews and close to the season as well. These last 10 rounds have really been something special to watch. And, well, hopefully within the next few months, we should be back with the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship for Season 7. Keep an eye out for when that one kicks off. But before we leave, Bradley, how do you feel after doing your first broadcast?
Well, that was 1 round out of 10, and if I sort of multiplied that across what a season must have been like, I think I missed a good one, and I had better be back for the next one. But it's been a great experience just calling this, and really appreciate having good company in the booth, Aaron. And yeah, you don't really have to interview me too much, because I trust you'll hear my voice a little bit more in the future.
Well, yes, hopefully we'll see more of you in the coming weeks and coming months, coming years even. But it's been an absolutely amazing day of racing. It's been an amazing season here at Apex Racing TV on the ESR GT3 Championship. And, well, from myself, Aaron Smith, Bradley Martins, and Joshua Wilkie in the production booth, it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate and broadcast this race to all of you lovely people. And we hope to see you back once again here soon on Apex Racing TV in the not too distant future.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.